Pop. Every generation thinks they invented pop music. They didn't. Pop has been the dominant commercial genre since the late 1950s, and it survives by constantly absorbing whatever is working in every other genre around it. It has no fixed sound, no fixed instrument, no fixed culture. Just one rule: the hook has to land. The Beatles built it on harmony. Michael Jackson fused it with funk and spectacle. Max Martin turned it into an almost mathematical science. Today it runs on electronic production, hip-hop rhythms, and Latin influence simultaneously. And it will look completely different in 10 years. That's the whole point. Hip-hop. On August 11, 1973, a teenager named Clive Campbell threw a back-to-school party in the South Bronx and plugged in 2 turntables. He isolated the drum break of a funk record, looped it, extended it, kept the crowd moving. That 6-second loop became the foundation of the most streamed genre on earth. Hip-hop's 4 pillars are DJing, MCing, breakdancing, and graffiti art. NWA used it to document police brutality. Tupac used it to write poetry. Jay-Z used it to build a business empire. Kendrick Lamar used it to win a Pulitzer Prize. No genre has traveled further from its origin or hit harder on arrival. Rock. Rock has been declared dead so many times it's almost a tradition. Punk killed it in 1976. Grunge killed it in 1991. Hip-hop killed it in the 2000s. Streaming killed it in the 2000s. And yet Arctic Monkeys are selling out stadiums. Jack White is still making some of the most visceral guitar music alive, and Wet Leg proved in 2022 that a debut rock album can still stop the conversation. It started as electrified blues in the 1950s, Chuck Berry's guitar riffs, Elvis's hips, and a generation of teenagers who needed music that belonged to them. 70 years later, that need hasn't gone anywhere. Electronic and dance. The people who invented electronic music weren't DJs, they were scientists. Karlheinz Stockhausen was composing with tape machines and oscillators in a German laboratory in the 1950s. Music with no instruments, no performers, no stage. Kraftwerk took that experiment and made it groovy in the 70s. Chicago House and Detroit Techno made it spiritual in the 80s. Daft Punk made it irresistible in the 90s. And by the 2010s, Avicii and Calvin Harris were filling stadiums with it. Today, electronic production isn't a genre you opt into. It's the air modern music breathes. You'll find it inside pop, hip-hop, R&B, and Latin simultaneously. R&B and soul. There's a moment in Aretha Franklin's recording of Respect where she spells out the word and somehow makes it feel like the most powerful statement ever committed to tape. That moment captures everything R&B and soul is built on, emotional truth delivered with complete conviction. Ray Charles was the first to fuse gospel's rawness with secular rhythm and blues in the late 1950s. Marvin Gaye turned it into social commentary. In the 90s, Aaliyah and Usher pulled it into hip-hop's orbit. Frank Ocean then rebuilt it from scratch. The genre keeps shape-shifting, but that emotional core never moves. Latin. Bad Bunny didn't release a single song in English, not one, and he was still Spotify's most streamed artist on earth for 3 consecutive years. That's the story of Latin music in 2024, a genre that spent decades being told it needed to translate itself for Western audiences and eventually decided it didn't too. From Carlos Santana at Woodstock to the late 90s crossover of Shakira and Jennifer Lopez to the reggaeton takeover led by Bad Bunny, Karol G, and Peso Pluma, Latin music didn't infiltrate global pop. It became global pop. K-pop. BTS performed at the United Nations General Assembly, not as a guest act, as speakers, representing South Korea on the world stage. That's the scale K-pop has reached. It started in the 1990s when Korean entertainment companies built structured training systems for performers, years of vocal coaching, dance training, and image development before a single song was released. The result was groups engineered for maximum impact: music, choreography, visual concept, and fan engagement, all designed as one unified product. Blackpink became the most subscribed music group on YouTube in history. The genre proved that a language barrier is no barrier at all. Classical. Here's the paradox nobody talks about. Every pop chord progression you've ever heard, every moment of tension before a chorus drops, every emotional shift between a verse and a bridge, all of it runs on harmonic rules that Johann Sebastian Bach was writing about in the 1700s. Classical music isn't a museum piece. It's the operating system underneath Western music. The Baroque period built the rules. Beethoven broke them open. The Romantics pushed emotion to its extreme. By the 20th century, Stravinsky was dismantling the entire framework. The rules changed. The influence never stopped. Country. Critics have been underestimating country music for as long as country music has existed, and country music has been outselling their favorites the entire time. It came out of Appalachia in the early 20th century, Scottish and Irish folk ballads meeting blues guitar and gospel harmony in the rural American South. Hank Williams wrote it like diary entries. Johnny Cash gave it moral weight. Garth Brooks turned it into a stadium spectacle. Today, Morgan Wallen is posting streaming numbers that most pop acts would envy, and Zach Bryan is proving that a guy with an acoustic guitar and something real to say still draws a massive crowd. Jazz. Jazz is the only genre where the performance is also the composition. Every night, musicians walk on stage with a shared harmonic framework and build the music live, improvising solos, responding to each other in real time, creating something that has never existed before and will never exist again in exactly that form. Louis Armstrong made that spontaneity feel like poetry. Miles Davis made it feel like philosophy. John Coltrane made it feel like a spiritual practice. Jazz gave Western music its harmonic vocabulary, the chord extensions, the modal playing, the tension and release mechanics that flow into R&B, film scoring, and hip-hop production to this day. Metal. Tony Iommi lost the tips of two fingers in a factory accident in Birmingham in 1965. To compensate, he tuned his guitar strings down and invented a playing style built around heavy, slow, dark riffs. Those riffs became Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath became metal. What started as amplified blues filtered through industrial England became one of the most technically demanding and globally loyal genres in existence. Metallica made it precise and stadium-filling. Iron Maiden made it literary. Then it fractured. Doom, death, black, thrash, progressive, each subgenre its own world, its own community, its own standards of excellence. Metal doesn't need mainstream approval. It never has. Reggae. Reggae is built on what's missing. Most Western music accents beats 1 and 3. Reggae's guitar and keyboard hit on the offbeat, 2 and 4, creating a groove that feels like it's pulling against itself, relaxed and heavy at the same time. That rhythm came out of Jamaica in the late 1960s, carrying Rastafarian philosophy, resistance politics, and spiritual weight that few popular genres have ever matched. Bob Marley didn't just make reggae famous, he made it mean something globally. And the dub producers who stripped those records down to bass and echo created the template for electronic music and remix culture decades before either term existed. Folk and acoustic. In the 1930s and 40s, a musicologist named Alan Lomax traveled through the rural American South with a tape recorder, capturing songs from sharecroppers, prisoners, and front porch musicians. Music that existed nowhere else and was one generation from disappearing forever. That preservation project became the foundation of the American folk revival. Woody Guthrie turned it into protest. Bob Dylan turned it into literature. Joni Mitchell turned it into something so personal it felt almost invasive to listen to. The format, one voice, one instrument, one honest song, has never stopped working. Phoebe Bridgers and Noah Kahan are proving it right now. Gospel and Christian. Gospel didn't influence American music. Gospel built the room American music lives in. Every vocalist who reaches for something raw and real instead of technically polished is drawing from gospel's tradition. Every choir arrangement in pop production, every call and response structure in hip-hop, every moment a singer breaks from the melody to just feel something. That's the church. Mahalia Jackson carried it to mainstream audiences with a voice so powerful it made segregated concert halls uncomfortable. Aretha Franklin brought it into soul. Kirk Franklin brought it into hip-hop. Kanye West built an entire album around it. The influence is total, constant, and mostly uncredited. Afrobeats. Afrobeats is the fastest-growing genre on Spotify globally, and most Western listeners discovered it less than 5 years ago. It came from West Africa, primarily Nigeria and Ghana, blending Yoruba rhythmic traditions, highlife, funk, and hip-hop over modern electronic production. Fela Kuti laid the political foundation in the 70s with music explicitly designed to challenge colonial power structures. Burna Boy, Wizkid, Tems, and Davido built on that legacy and took it global. Wizkid's collaboration with Drake introduced millions of new ears to the sound. Today its rhythms are showing up inside UK pop, American R&B, and Latin production. Afrobeats didn't ask for a seat at the table, it built a bigger one.